All right, we are so back. I think this is the first time we have the three of us on the show. Adam, what is good, man? It feels good to be back after a 3-week hiatus here.
Bro, 3 weeks. That's like a European vacation, man. How does that feel, dude? Although I know you didn't really disconnect. You just like semi-disconnect. It's like me, man. I can't. There's no such thing as disconnecting anymore. Those days are long gone, man.
Long gone. When you're in this space, it's never ending. Finally over that jet lag too. Only woke up at 4:30 a.m. today. No big
deal.
Bro,
you're looking tan, man. It's looking good, dude. Looking good.
Oh, yeah. Chris, what is good, bro? How you feeling today?
Yo, good morning. Good morning. It is good to see you. Good to be here with the three of us in sCrypt. But you are looking tan. I hope Asia was a blast. But welcome back. How are you feeling?
Feels good, man. I'm excited to be back. A little refreshed. That was my first time actually to Asia. I didn't go to Token 2049. Just did some traveling and was there for a wedding. So good, fun time. Really refreshing. Definitely want to go back. It looked like all the DJs had fun at Token 49 and Breakpoint and everything else. And we're so back, man. Runes are pumping. Ordinals are pumping. Fractal is pumping or was pumping, and everyone is very interested around OPCat. I see it's talk of the town on Fractal, talk of the town on Bell's Coin. It's that there's a scripting language, right? It's making its way around to all these proof of work chains. So this conversation seems to be in very high demand. Couldn't really appreciate sCrypt platform for coming on. A few notes before we do get started. We are speaking through Adam, Chris, and I, who work at Emble Vault, we're speaking through my account. We do a live stream. I've pinned that to the top, so some people prefer to watch it. Please retweet the spaces or the live stream so everyone can come and hear this conversation. We do host an open conversation. So if you want to join the stage, please just feel free to hop up and we'll let you in, or just post a comment on the live stream or hit that purple button in the bottom right hand corner and we can get off to the conversation. Adam, first and foremost, dude, what's going on with OPCat on Bell's Coin before we dive into some of the technicals?
It hasn't launched. I was expecting it to launch much quicker on testnet, but the devs haven't launched it on testnet yet. So it's upcoming kind of any day kind of thing. So we're still waiting for it to launch on test. They're saying it's going to be a little while. They want to run it on testnet for a while, meaning more than a few weeks before putting it live. I don't know the particulars of why you want to do that or what the concern is, but they do have some concerns, don't want to basically break the blockchain. So we'll see how it goes. But so it's going to be a little while for OPCat to be live on Bells. That's the kind of TLDR.
We'll get some interoperability between Bell's Coin and Fractal, since that seems to be the first two. Now off to our esteemed guest, sCrypt. I appreciate you for joining the conversation. How was Token 2049? That seemed to be your conversation, or your meetup seemed to be the talk of Twitter while you were gone.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. First of all, big fan of the show. I've been watching this for like God knows how many episodes. So I never thought I would come on the stage. So really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, it was a blast. Token 2049. To be honest, I didn't go to the main event. I didn't even know where it was held. But I think I'm mostly in all kind of side events in the general Bitcoin system. And I think one day we just came out with this idea. Hey, let's looks like OPCat is it's the talk of the town. Hey, maybe get a smaller meetup just in case somebody's interested. So we literally booked the venue maybe like, I don't know, 12 hours or 18 hours before, and when we sent something on Twitter, and then all of a sudden, I think 60 or 70 people just showed up. So it's a great attendance. And then later on, somebody went to the next event, Runes 2049. I heard it was the attendance it was a big stage, but somehow the attendance was not as good. So that just gives some comparison. Yeah, it was a wonderful event. Met a lot of people there. People talk about Bitcoin, Fractal, OPCat. So I feel the energy is back. Yeah, it was great being there. And of course, came back a little bit jet lag, but that's I think it's worth the 16-hour flight. So pretty good.
Yeah, I feel that, man. Mine was 26 hours traveling from
wow.
Yeah, from Asia to Las Vegas. So finally getting over that over the first week. Before we do dive into some of maybe the more degen stuff, can you just explain to us simply what sCrypt platform is? I do on the live stream have your website pulled up, and so I'll be going along with it. But there seems to be some confusion, even from my part, a little bit, where they're saying that you've essentially, from my understanding, you've built basically a full complete language on top of OPCat that has some similar smart contract functionality. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So basically, for people who have not heard about sCrypt, so the easiest way to think about it is it's like Solidity, but for Bitcoin. Okay, so we all know, on Ethereum world, they have this so-called Ethereum virtual machine. It has a bunch of, let's say, instruction set for the virtual machine, which is also called a opcode. maybe surprising to some people. They also have op-add, out. You can multiply two things. You can put them back in the stack. They also have a stack. So, and in Bitcoin, we also have this so-called, I call it Bitcoin virtual machine. It also has a bunch of instruction sets for this machine. They called opcode. And also, Satoshi also called it Bitcoin script. So it also has a bunch of opcodes. But as in Ethereum world, I mean, in theory, you can program Ethereum smart contract in this opcodes directly, but almost nobody does it because it's like assembly. It's just too complicated. So that's why you have high-level language such as Solidity, and also you have for Python lovers here. You also have I think it's called Viper. That's another way to program it. But bottom line, it all combines down to EVM opcode. So same idea here for sCrypt. So you basically take this like a user-friendly or dev-friendly high-level language and combines down to Bitcoin script. So you don't have to know anything about, opcat, op-add. It's all wrapped up in this like abstraction called sCrypt. And the better thing about sCrypt is that's better than Solidity. It's not a new language. It's just so-called TypeScript. So think about it, it's like a JavaScript. It's like a JavaScript library you can download and install, and then immediately you are ready to go. So you don't have to learn anything new. Even if you are coming from Web 2, you just install this library and follow our docs. You can use all your favorite IDE, your favorite library, your NPM. You can use your favorite testing framework, anything that's just old, vanilla TypeScript or JavaScript. So you don't have to, learn some esoteric language, in Web so-called to be familiar with in Web3. So that's just the high level. The opcat is just one of the opcode. I think now is becoming more and more, let's say, popular in the general Bitcoin system, even in bells, or I even talked to some Litecoin people. They are thinking about it because it's a very simple opcode. It was there on day one. That's written by Satoshi, and later on, for various reasons, it was disabled. So if we can bring this back, it will really bring the Bitcoin system, from very, very limited smart contract capability to full-blown smart contract capability. So-called jumping from Turing incomplete to Turing complete with just this simple reactivation. Yeah, that's a high level overview.
Yeah, and it has the narrative component as well, right? With crypto, the best technology always doesn't win, but it has community adoption, and the narrative of Satoshi initially implementing it does give it a little bit of that additional boost in terms of at least the awareness around it and some interest. Going back a little bit though, I'm curious about your involvement in how you stumble across building something that now has all this attention. On your account, it says that you've been an OPCAT enjoyer since 2018, and from my understanding, you were initially involved in the BSV community. I would love to just hear kind of the origin story of discovering OPCAT and maybe some of the early periods of finding that aha moment in some of the stuff you've built.
Yeah, just a little bit of history. So when I first got into crypto, I'm like pretty much all the cookies. I went straight down to Ethereum because that's what all the the coders, the builders, they hang out. I try to build a few like apps over there, like a wallet or like I even built some kind of like a Quora or Stack Overflow, a QA website, so you get paid if you answer some questions. And then later on, 2017, I think there's a big event happening in Bitcoin system called the scaling debate. So I'm just curious because back in the good old days, the talk of the time was this so-called Ethereum killer, for people who have been here long enough, called it EOS. I don't know, you guys.
Yeah.
Do you guys, anybody remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah, of course.
The biggest raises.
Yeah, they raised like, I don't know, 4 billion something. It was one of the only ICO I ever participated in. So I'm really, really bullish because, I tried to build on Ethereum, but it was slow and clunky. You can only have two options: either your app goes viral and the fee skyrocket and nobody can use it, and or your app doesn't take off ever. So you fail either way. So I think there's no escape. So that's why I'm really bullish on so-called EOS. So because they are claiming, hey, that's very scalable, and you almost have to pay no fees. So, but after it launched, long story short, it didn't meet the expectations. So that's when I kind of, want to look back and say, hey, if we already have the blockchain 2.0, which is Ethereum, and 3.0, which is EOS, and why is so many people still stuck in 1.0? It's like we have iPhone now, a 13, and somebody's still using Nokia or BlackBerry. It's just very counterintuitive, and so many people are still participating in the BTC debate, saying whether we should raise block size or not. So that's why I kind of dive into the rabbit hole and what this Bitcoin is about. And then I pretty much spent like a couple of months doing nothing, but just study Bitcoin, where it came from, what does the creator say about it. And that's when I found out, it has this Bitcoin script thing, man. It's coming from a quote from Satoshi Nakamoto in the Bitcoin talk.org. It pretty much says, when I design the Bitcoin system, I want it to be very versatile or future-proof, because I cannot imagine. I mean, even Satoshi cannot imagine what kind of applications people are going to use it for. He put a few examples: multi-party, arbitration, escrow. In today's world, we call it smart contract, but back then, because he didn't come up with this term, so he just put a so-called very flexible so-called Bitcoin script. He called a predicate system, such that you can program pretty much anything you want. So that's why I kind of shocking to me, because nobody has told me, hey, you can do, let's say very complex computation, so-called smart contract on Bitcoin. And back then it was, there's a split called Bitcoin Cash. So, BTC, they pretty much say, hey, we don't want people to develop applications on top, because that's considered kind of like a spamming attacks. So I went directly into Bitcoin Cash. They enabled a bunch of altcodes, re-enabled, including OpCat. So that's where I got into Bitcoin Cash. And then later on the split, we also support Bitcoin SV. And since last year, because of the ordinals, I think now is the BTC mainnet I think it's much more developer friendly. So that's why we kind of like a pivot back a little bit to support the so-called mother chain. And now, because of Fractal, thankfully, it has enabled OpCat. So we are, also supporting that as well.
Yeah, OPCat had been the talk of the town in terms of Taproot Wizards, pushing the narrative through quantum cats, and there was the educational period, but there wasn't a practical implementation yet outside of on BSV and Bitcoin Cash, which for some people is just like a hard pass. Whether it's the tribalistic views or whatnot, although it had been. Right. Although you guys had been building with it for quite some time, for all these people, it's still new. And then Cat 20 was implemented and kind of has really taken over the narrative on Fractal, because there's now an actual implementation of and use case where people can play around with OPCat and different things built on top of it. Could you tell us, from your perspective, what Cat 20 is and how it differs from BRC20?
Yeah, great question. I think for people who have not heard about Cat 20, it's a new token standard that's just launched, I think a little bit, maybe 10 days ago. Let's see. Oh, sorry, almost 2 weeks ago. On this so-called Bitcoin sidechain or layer 2, whatever you call it, Fractal Bitcoin. Because Fractal, I think the biggest difference between Fractal and the Bitcoin mainnet is they re-enabled OpCat. So because of that, we have this new token standard called CAT 20, short for Covenant Attested Token. BRC20. There's a fungible token protocol similar to BRC20 or Rune, but has it's very unique in the sense it's the only token protocol on Bitcoin or Bitcoin adjacent ecosystem that leverages OpCat and also is so-called miner validated. What does that mean? So if you look at all the, let's say, existing token protocols on Bitcoin today, you have BRC20, you have Runes, all of them so-called verified by so-called indexers. So that means the Bitcoin miners or Bitcoin script doesn't know anything about it. Even you look at the code, right? In the case of Runes, it's putting some op return data, which means it's never executed. And also for BRC20 and some other meta protocols, token protocols built on top of ordinals, it's put in the ordinal envelope, which is like op force of if, and the branch never gets executed. So basically, the miners don't understand anything about this so-called tokens. You need to run some kind of like a third-party server, which called indexers, to interpret all these token rules. So, for example, let's say you have some invalid token transaction. For example, you have BRC20, which is over mint, and if all the supplies are minted out, you can still broadcast transactions. And the miners, because they don't know anything about BRC20, they're still going to accept these transactions. But these transactions will be pretty much discarded by the indexers because it's already minted out, right? But for CAD20, one very immediate, observation for anybody who's trying to mint it is, if it's minted out, your transaction will even get rejected by the miners. You will never waste your fees. You will never pay and not get your tokens minted, which is very different from BRC20. Of course, you have some other benefits. For example, it's almost impossible for you to accidentally burn, this so-called CAD tokens, because the script, the locking script, is very difficult. It's very different from the so-called, either pay to public hash, witness public hash address, or let's say some other very primitive pay to taproot address. So you really, really have to be very careful. Even you want to burn, it's very, very difficult. So virtually, you don't have to worry about accidental burning. Also have a bunch of other features. For example, is secured by proof of work directly. So you are not relying on indexers. So there's no risk of indexer inconsistency or bug, because everything now, your miners are your indexers. So you never have to, you don't have to trust any third party. It's as secure as native Satoshis. So I think that's why it kind of take off. A lot of people, they're minting and transferring. Even today, I think you go to the fractal Bitcoin, is pretty much most of the time the blocks are pretty much all full with so-called CAD20 tokens. So it's very interesting to see it in action.
What would be a negative of, because obviously there's always trade-offs, what would be a negative of the token?
Yeah, if I have to say, I wouldn't say negative. I think it's a trade-off, because you do a lot of things. How do you mint, how do you transfer this token is all validated in Bitcoin script. So of course the script is going to be bigger than, let's say, BRC20 or Runes. Yeah, but I think that's the cost you have to pay. So the way I look at it is, today you can go out to buy some of the fancy, the latest iPhone, right? Or you can just go back in time and go to some, vendor and just buy some, I don't know, like a Nokia. I don't know whether you can still buy these phones these days, but you can buy a very, very cheap phone, which can only have you, call somebody or text somebody, right? So it's like BRC20, right? I mean, it's like a token. You can transfer it, you can mint it, but that's about it. Versus, CAD20 is almost like you're buying the latest iPhone. Of course, it has more features, right? You can do camera, you can do GPS, all kinds of new features. But of course, you have to pay, right? The price is higher. So I think that's a trade-off. you want to have more features, all this manipulative good features, you have to pay more in terms of the transaction fee. And if you only want to have tokens with very limited capability, you go to, buy just some old phone which can only let you call and text. Then you are saving the transaction fees. You are paying very little. So that's a trade-off I can see.
Interesting. So I have here pulled up on the live stream. I'm looking at the CAT token. 32,000 holders, 36 Bitcoin in volume, and 8 BTC in TVL. Looks like about 7,000 transactions. So there's a pretty high demand. It looks like right now one CAT equals 0.1 fractal Bitcoin. I know there after it minted out, there was you could see it very clearly. There's an explosion on different types of wallets, different types of trading tools and explorers to figure out how to support Cat20 through a variety of ways. There's actually a few people here on stage. So Harry, if you are there, I was going to ask you. You launched, I believe, a minting tool for Cat20. Could you tell us a little bit about the experience of building something for Cat20 versus building something for BRC20, like the simplicity or the complexities around it?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a little bit different just jumping into sCrypt for the first time, but luckily, like, I've been kind of aware of Yahweh and his project for a little bit now, so I've just used it before. But yeah, we built Fleur.gg. It's like a Cat20, minting and wallet balance tool. The main thing that's really nice about it as like a launchpad service or like a provider is that you get the reliability of like everyone that is paying money gets what they need. Whereas like a lot of times launch pads in the ordinal space like get in all these controversies because they have problems where they like need to refund people, something went wrong. There's just all this chaos that comes around mints. And sCrypt makes it so that like you can make these apps pretty simply and not have to like worry about all the problems that you would have on the main, like with the ordinals launch pads.
Does Cat20 have the same kind of functionality as Runes where you can, pre-mine some, or give us the overview just for people who don't know, like myself?
Yeah. So as a builder, like Jawei, he gave us like an open minter contract, but it's flexible enough that you can make your own minters. So initially, so you can make one that, you pre-mine a certain amount, or you can make other rules. Like what really interested me about sCrypt earlier this year was this project called POW20. And it was using sCrypt to mint BSV ordinals, but you had to mine them. And it was super intriguing to me. And it had all sorts of problems that Jawei's actually fixed with the Cat20 protocols. But yeah, you can create your own kind of distribution methods and program it yourself. Like I think Sats Pumped Out Fund is trying to do the bonding curve method for initial supplies. There's all sorts of interesting things. Like it's really anything you can think of and program, into these contracts.
Yeah, it is really exciting. Bellscoin Dev, glad to have you on stage. Do you have a question or comment from the conversation?
Yeah, hey, what's up? No, I just wanted to say a couple things. First of all, as you see from my PFP, I'm very bullish on OpCat, especially for Bellscoin. Second of all, I had just a couple questions. So yeah, as you guys were talking about how transaction fees exploded, especially on Fractal after, everybody was trying to mint all these Cat20 tokens. I was just wondering how bad could it be for bells, for instance, once that gets implemented, or will it be like a short-term thing, similar to when we were, minting inscriptions such as Nook? Like, would it be like that to where the blockchain stalls at least for a bit, or is it going to be like, a breeze? Because I know that like the testnet is going to be about 3 months, so I'm assuming we can test all of this, but just wondering how it's going to happen and what's going to happen.
Harry, do you have any thoughts on
Well,
that or sCrypt?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think these blockchains are scaled up enough to support all the people that want to use that, to be honest. So they're going to have to, if the fees are going to raise, I don't think Bells is going to halt because they did the merge mining. It's going to be expensive though, is kind of how I see it.
Would it be a short-term thing though, where it's
It
very...
depends, do people really want to trade and use these things all the time, or is the hype gonna, I can't really predict what people are gonna do in the market, but yeah, I think the blockchain, like Fractal versus Bells, whichever one can scale more and get more people using it, is gonna be better off.
Yeah, I do like how the fact that we are doing a 3 months test net. I mean, it's still in DevNet, so they're obviously testing a lot on it. And it's good. We'll probably find out what's gonna happen, and try to offset the negatives, and have it be nice and smooth.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I have seen some some discussion around OPCat. We even saw that Taproot Wizards came out with Catnip, which is their own protocol. I believe they announced it like the day after Cat 20. But I have seen some devs. I think Bob Botley actually had a post about this, that it's going to be too expensive to have something like Cat 20 on Bitcoin if OPCat is soft fork and added into the protocol. Are there any other type of fungible token protocols that you can build with Cat 20 or with OPCat, or is it limited to just something like Cat 20?
Yeah, so far Cat 20 is the only one that shows up, but I would not be surprised if there's future ones coming, because everything is open source and OPCat is just a very, let's say, a simple building block which you can build all kinds of a so-called smart contract. Some people may want to do this, use this to build tokens such as Cat 20. But I would imagine, I mean, you can always tweak it, or you even improve it, or even come up with something very drastically different from let's say Cat 20. I think I wouldn't be surprised if some more, let's say, token projects coming out, or some other so-called advanced smart contract applications come up, which is leverages OPCat. But if I have to assume, I think there's a lot of people that are watching on this and learning from the Cat 20. I could imagine if somebody come up with a better idea. I think that's very possible.
Can you tell
I think
me?
that's also
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. So that's also the beauty of, let's say, Fractal or some other like Bell's coin, because you are really one criticism or counter argument for for people who do not want to bring OPCat on BTC mainnet, which is valid. I think the argument basically says, hey, you always think about the OPCat is the benefits, but of course, what about the risks, especially some risks unknown, right? So by putting OPCat out there, not on the BTC mainnet, which is very and should be very conservative in terms of upgrade. You play on some other blockchains, which is almost the same, but has real value on top. It's not just SigNet or testnet, right? Then because the behavior is very different, right? Because let's say if you mint, right, that doesn't cost anything. The behavior is going to be very different if you really have to pay to play the game, right? So far we have a lot of interest, and looks to me nothing's breaking yet. Nothing's broken. So that's that I think that's a positive signal for let's say bringing back OPCat on the mainnet. I think that for the way I look at it is like an experiment. So you never know it's going to work or not. So why not just do some experiments on some other, let's say less let's say smaller market cap chains like a Bell's coin or Fractal. So it can help us make the right decision, I hope. Go ahead.
Totally agree. One question for you, and I've seen this pop up on the timeline. People were talking about, hey, the first, the cat tokens that are on Fractal right now are going to be available on these other chains. So it'll be like a multi-chain token. Tell me how that would work. Just take Fractal and Bell's coin together right now, because they're going to have OPCat maybe first. How would they be available and communicate between chains? How's that possible?
Yeah, great question. So so just first give an analogy, see how CAT protocol, CAT, let's including CAT 20. So the good thing about it is so-called cross-chain interoperable, meaning you can literally bridge, let's say your CAT from Fractal to Bell's coin if they added OpCat later. So the way to do it is so-called trustless bridge, because remember, everything is here is validated by the miners and also known by Bitcoin script. So Bell's coin also have Bitcoin script. So you could imagine if you want to lock up, you send your CAT on Fractal and lock up in a contract. And then on the Bell's coin side, because they can have OpCat and advanced smart contract, you can actually prove using so-called the SPV, right? So you can get the block headers, you can make sure, hey, this transaction actually happens on Fractal, and then some coins really gets locked up. So you can mint an equivalent wrapped token on Bell's coin. Let's say I call it Bell's Cat, right? So you can play with it with all kind of like applications. So after you are done, you want to go back. So you burned the Bell's Cat on Bell's coin, and then on the Fractal side, because the contract can now be unlocked. Basically, the contract says, hey, if you burn it on Bells, you can move the coins again on Fractal. So you can think about it is as a two-way trustless pack in this sense, right? You don't need to go through some multi-sig or so-called federated. I think that's a very powerful use case for OpCat and also for CAT protocols. Basically, wherever you launch it, you can trustlessly move this CAT 20 tokens across different blockchains, including, I think you may even do it with some kind of EVM compatible chains as well, not only just Bitcoin compatible, like Litecoin or Bell's coin, if they have OpCat one day.
And does this type of functionality come right out of the box? So let's say you have OPCat on Fractal and OPCat is added to Bell's coin tomorrow. Do you have this trustless bridge immediately, or does this require a developer to come in and basically build the interoperability between the application?
Yeah, you definitely need somebody to build it. It's not there yet, because as far as I can tell, that's now compatible. Let's say, OpCat enabled another chain. I mean, that's kind of like at least has some traction. I mean, of course, you have Liquid by Blockstream, but as far as I know, nobody I know use it. So nobody, or testnet, yeah. You can definitely do this on Signet, but of course, you need somebody to build it. I think it's just at this stage is just theoretically possible. I think that's what I found out when first heard about this OpCat discussion on BTC ecosystem earlier this year. I came in and think, oh, it's great. When I think about bringing OpCat and that's full smart contract capability back to big BTC, but when I dive down a little bit, it's very, very little implementation, if there's any. I think we have seen some vault and some primitive, very rudimentary covenant, but it's beyond that. There's nothing else. I think that's why we start putting a lot of examples out there, because, hey, I mean, this all sound great, but if there's nothing built and the end users cannot interact, they don't understand that the impact of OpCat is always something very intangible. So that's why we start building, on Signet and now on Fractal, so people can really get a sense on what is not only theoretical, with this OpCat. It's really very tangible. You can use it every day. All this kind of applications that everybody can use them and get a real sense. So hopefully they can, shift the, let's say, the momentum or the vibe to have to gaining more support for OpCat or mainnet. Yeah.
Go ahead, Bell's Coin Dev.
Yeah, I was gonna say, It's actually very cool to be able to take those tokens and bridge them because you can't do that with inscriptions. So that would be very nice. But I had a question. So with inscriptions, like when you're talking about like, I think it's the same way with BTC, but with Doge and Bells, which I'm familiar with, like you can't have the same name multiple times for an inscription. So let's just say you have cat token, you can't make a second one like Solana tokens can, where they can use the same name multiple times. So I was just wondering if we're bridging from, let's say, if we're bridging cat 20s from bells to fractals and vice versa. Let's say we make our own cat token. How would that work? Would there just be two cat tokens on both chain? Like, you know what I mean? Like, would that work since we might bridge their cat to ours and our cat to theirs?
Yeah, great question. I think the a good way to understand is think about Ethereum. Let's say you have the Ethereum EVM compatible chains. So let's say you have USDT or USDC on Ethereum, and now you want to bridge it to, I don't know, Binance Smart Chain or Avalanche, right? So because you have smart contract, you can do this trustlessly. So think about not as bridging. You are actually, it's almost like a physically you are moving the cat from one chain to the other. So of course you are going to have the, again, so one difference, again, going back a little bit. So on, let's say, inscription based token protocols, you can not have duplicate names or tickers. For example, you can audit, right? That's just one audit. You cannot deploy audit later because the things, every token rule is validated by the indexes. And the indexes knows the global state of the blockchain. Okay, but which I don't think is impossible. I don't think it's possible on, let's say, opcat based token protocols. It's like Ethereum world. You can deploy multiple tokens with the same name, right? On Ethereum too, because there's no way for the contract to enforce, hey, you can never reuse that name. I don't think that's possible. Same idea here. So you can have multiple tokens with the same name, but you can always differentiate them by a unique identifier. On Ethereum side, it's called contract address, right? You know which one USDC is deployed by Circle because it has a unique contract address. Nobody can duplicate that, even though they can duplicate the name. Same on, let's say, Cat 20. You can have this global unique ID, which is based pretty much like a transaction ID when you deploy it, because that's only one transaction ID, unique, global. So you can always differentiate the CAD tokens on Fractal and hopefully soon on Bells coin by the unique transaction ID.
That's kind of funny because people always ask us, what's the Bells coin contract ID? And now we can give them one for a cat 20.
Yeah. Whoever deploys that, I think that would be very interesting to watch.
For sure. All right. Thank you for answering.
No problem. And the way you define on Bells coin is you have this minting rule. What does this minter say? Basically, it detects, hey, if somebody locked up CAD tokens on, let's say, Fractal, you are going to mint the same amount on a Bells coin side, and vice versa. When you burn it, and the original CAD tokens on Fractal, they can be unlocked and moved again.
Yeah, I was seeing actually. I used to work on some old BNB token a while back, and they like just recently tried bridging to Solana, but there was such an inconsistency to where the Solana token became worth way more than what the BNB token was, and it created a whole mess. So yeah, it's good to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think that's always the so-called unknowns. That'll be interesting. Maybe the CAD tokens after it moves to Bascoin and become more valuable. Who knows? But in that sense, that's why it's always good to have, data points or experiments run so they can help us, collect more evidence whether to enable this or not enable this on BTC mainnet. Yeah, which is very risky, right? So we want to play all kinds of experiments on other blockchains first, and let that guide the discussion. I think that would be, whether it succeeds or not, I think it will be valuable lessons. Yes.
Have you seen so far on Fractal any other things besides the Cat20 token happening that are kind of interesting?
I mean, you have 5 or 6, capital tickers, right? So just not as exciting, but yeah, some people they like the longer ticker names for BRC20. So
Got it. So is this interoperability aspect is really interesting, obviously, from the emblem side as well, because that's the space that we're in. Is there any possibility that there's intraoperability with this OPCat or sCrypt? I guess it'd be composability. Like, for instance, can it interact with Rune and then be able to take the runes to Bell's coin? Is that possible?
I think kind of. So I think for that to happen, you first need to, let's say, wrap or even bridge, or some people call it upgrade your runes or BRC20. So the example I give is, when runes first launched, right? A lot of BRC20 projects they're saying, hey, we should migrate to runes. I think it's the same idea here. You can also migrate your existing BRC20 and runes token into let's say Cat20. I think then you can bridge it to many other blockchains. Almost think about as now think about you have, let's say, some cars or even horses. Now you want to transport it across the world to some other continent, right? But first you have to put it into a like an airplane, right? Which is the Cat20. You have to move your old coins into this new jet, Boeing or whatever, Airbus. You have to put in the airplane, and then once you're in an airplane, you can be transported to any bridge using trustless bridge to anywhere in the world. So first of all, you have to upgrade to Cat20, and then after you upgrade, you can move around trustlessly. But I haven't found a way to do this natively with, let's say, indexer based, because fundamentally, think about it, right? Because the chain, the miners, either Bell's coin or Fractal or even BTC, once you have OPCat, they don't know anything about the this so-called legacy tokens, because they are not verified by them, they're not validated by them. They have no concept of ordinals or runes, but they do know Cat20 tokens because everything is validated by the miners. I hope this helps.
Yeah, it absolutely does. One final aspect to, I guess, some of the new functionality that OPCat and sCrypt brings is directly on your website. It says ZK rollups. This has been, scaling Bitcoin has been a pretty hot topic this year in terms of, quote unquote Bitcoin L2s and all different varieties and side chains. And, now we have execution layers, and I guess they call it Bitcoin 1.5s or 1.5 layers. How does sCrypt and the ZK rollup scale Bitcoin to where this is an improvement over the existing models?
Yeah, actually, before this call, I was having, weekly discussion with Stocknet. So if you go to our Twitter handle, the pinned one is we are actively working on, so-called zero knowledge based roll up, with this amazing partner of us called Stockwell. So for people who have not heard about Stockwell, it's 8 billion value added, gigantic company on Ethereum. That's the one of the top player, for scaling Ethereum using ZK rollup. So they have been running on Ethereum, I don't know, for a couple of years, and now, thanks to the possible reintroduction of OPCat, it's technically possible to bring the tech stack of their own zero knowledge base roll up back to Bitcoin. For people who not heard of roll up, basically is the number one scaling technology on Ethereum and probably on many other EVM blockchains. So the basic idea is also very simple. So instead of sending 1,000 transactions or even 1 million or even 1 billion transactions onto the mainnet and have the miners or validators verify them one by one, you can almost like roll them up. I think that's where the name comes from. You are almost compressing them into a simple zero-knowledge proof, which is maybe a few hundred bytes short. And then on the mainnet, you only have to verify this one transaction containing this proof. So if this transaction and also the proof within it is verified, you are very sure, because of the ZK math, mathematical property, you are very sure all this 1,000 or 1 million or even 1 billion transactions, they're all valid without re-executing them. I think the same idea is chain agnostic. So if you can of course do this on Ethereum, but also you can do this on Bitcoin. But the only missing part is this opcat, because to verify this proof natively on Bitcoin layer 1, you need opcat for this to be practical. So that's a summary.
And let's say Starkware builds an L2 and then they implement the ZK proof. Like what does that actually mean?
Oh, so that means your fee is going to see very significant drop. For example, now, if everybody trying to mint some CAT20 tokens on, let's say, BTC, and without any kind of like scaling or roll up, the fees could easily go to, I don't know, $10 or even $100. Or it's like when people rush to mint runes when it first launches, when the halving happens. So everybody can still remember that all the fees went through the roof. I think some people even pay like, I don't know, close to 1 million to mint some first 10 or I don't remember 5, but it's going to be very expensive. But instead of all this transaction rushing to bid on the very limited 1 megabyte block size, think about now, you can all go to so-called roll up layer 2. You don't have to, you are almost compressing all these thousands of even millions of transactions down to like a couple of transactions. So it's going to alleviate, the tension or the contention for the block space. So that can bring down the fees, the transaction fees.
I have a slightly different perspective on how the ZK stuff will work. So my thinking is, instead of doing like a layer 2 and then compressing that state and putting it on the L1 and like validating it that way, that if you instead, like, for example, say we were doing, a billion CAT20 mints every day. Well, all billion of those mints have the same code in them in the UTXOs. So I think the way you scale it is like you use that ZK tech to somehow like compress all that data on L1. Yeah, it's all there on L1, but you don't have to save it as like a node operator a billion times a day. You only need to save it once and then use like the ZK tech to like magically figure out how to like just make the L1 experience really good instead of needing to like build a whole L2 system.
But is that possible? I guess is the question. Is that
I think
possible?
so. I think so. I mean, that's effectively what these L2s are building, Like, why not just kind of combine it?
Yeah, it's all very possible because they have done this on Ethereum and also on Bitcoin side. Somebody already built some. Of course, it's not in production ready yet, but if you go to this Bitcoin repository on GitHub called, I think it's called Bitcoin Sanctuary. So they already have some working code, which of course leverages Opcat to verify some simple computation. It's like something like a Fibonacci sequence. It's already being implemented, but of course now we have to improve it, optimize it before we really put into production. Of course, all of this depends on reactivation of Opcat. I think that's why Stockwell, they put out a $1 million research fund for proposals or research, either showing the benefit of opcos on opcat on Bitcoin, or maybe you can show the opposite. Hey, maybe it's a bad idea to bring it back. So for anybody who's listening, you have this $1 million grant waiting to be awarded if you have any, let's say, interesting experiment or use cases, or let's say counter argument why opcat is bad. So definitely check the website Stockwell. $1 million.
Are you going
Real
to
skin in the game.
Are you going to try and launch something on Fractal to give this a shot? Is that the plan?
Yeah, it's doable, but we're already actively working on building some kind of like a ticket route already. So I don't know if we can do something outside. So basically, we are already working with them. So I think I leave it to you guys. This $1 million to grab for anybody who can build cool things using Opcat.
I think originally, like when it's first like launched, especially like on Bells, probably we are gonna see crazy fees because everybody's gonna try and get those names. But I think it will like automatically with time kind of scale up a little bit, and it will become better. Especially since I think there'll be less minting as time goes on, and more just regular transactions, which tend to be larger, like token wise. So I don't think it should be an issue in the long run. It's all very exciting, very innovative, especially for at Bell, the small chain that is less than a year old.
Yeah, I mean, the degens and just users in general have been quite excited around all the programmability and new features that have come to proof of work chains over the last 2 years or so. It's only going to continue, right? So the kind of like the Bitcoin Solana barbell thesis, but for Bitcoin, it's UTXO chains all the way down. In Solana, it's just the high TPS kind of ecosystem. If there's anyone on stage who has a question, you could go ahead and raise your hand, or if anyone wants to come on stage and ask some questions, please just hit the request button. Go ahead, Jerry.
Hey everyone. So I'd like to first say huge congrats to sCrypt, because when I first got to know what sCrypt was about, I thought it was kind of a scam, because I'm not too familiar with Bitcoin SV. So I was like, I don't want to look at this. But then like Cat 20 came out, and I was like, okay, maybe this stuff actually works, and I think right now it's amazing. So I'm looking to make some tests. So I wanted to ask, I already checked the Cat 20 tracker stuff. So I'm diving deep into that. But what would be the first a good way to start testing? Is it using Signet and Fractal? And how can we support? And two more questions, more on the technical side, on how you actually rob script codes is. How do you handle infinite loops in terms of resource management? I know that you can do infinite loops on script, I think, if I'm not wrong. You can definitely do loops. So how do you handle resource management there? And what happened if the script code is too large? How do we handle these cases? How do we make sure that the script code is well optimized? And yeah, mostly everything related to resource management there.
All right, great question. First of all, I'm not issuing tokens, so we're not scamming people yet. So stay tuned, okay? So maybe one day I issue some sCrypt tokens, but who knows? Anyway, I think let me answer the second question first. How do you handle, let's say, resource management? This is a very interesting question, because it all shows the difference between so-called Bitcoin-like chains and Ethereum-like chains. On Ethereum, they have this, so-called gas, right? Because, if you're not, because those so-called, they have, you can have infinite loops, and also, recursions. If you're not careful, you may have some bad code, and then, every miner or validator runs out of memory or CPU, whatever. So for that to not happen, they have to introduce this concept called gas. Basically, it's like what the name suggests. You have almost like a meter, gas meter, to see how much gas you have used. So if you are paying less than that, what's needed, so they are going to abort you. So you never have this so-called, you are make sure you always hard. There's no risk of infinite loops. So on the Bitcoin UTXO side is a little bit different because there's no, let's say on the script level, there's no loop or recursion or, jumping instructions, because that means, it's a linear execution. So from the script, it runs from the left to the right. There's no jumping back. So you can never have this fundamental so-called halting problem in computer science, right? You're always sure it's going to halt. So that just much simplified. You don't need to introduce some, so-called gas on top of it, because if the script is finite, you know for sure it's going to halt eventually. Okay. So for example, then the question is, how do you do loops then? That's something, you can build, for example, at sCrypt or some other high level language, abstraction level. So you can have, build all this kind of constructs on top. So for example, in our case, how do you do loops? The loops have to be so-called bounded. You cannot, loop infinitely. Let's say you cannot have a while loop, because everything under the hood is going to be, so-called unrolled, right? Even look at the CPU, right? CPU doesn't have loop. You always run one time, one iteration, and then you run the second, and you run the 100th. Okay, same idea for here. You just so-called unroll the loop. So if you do this loop 100 times, on the script side, eventually you're going to, on the script, it's going to show up, let's say, repetitively 100 times. So in that sense, you still have loops, but it's just different mechanism. Okay. So same for other resources management. Let's say you can have, loops, but also you can have functional calls. You are doing inline, actually. In sCrypt, if you're calling a function, basically you are copying the whole function code and replace it where the code is called. It's like an inline function. Everything is inline. Okay. So that's the second question. For the first, I think if you already start playing with, let's say, Cat 20, and maybe later on, very soon, maybe we can see some Cat 721 coming. I would imagine, one interesting idea, I think, Harry mentioned earlier. So in Cat 20, it's very different from, let's say, existing indexer-based tokens, because you can define your own minting rule. It's I think the best thing I like about Cat protocol or Cat 20 is so-called permissionless. Really, you don't have to ask the team, hey, should I mint, in this way? Should I have pre-mine or not have pre-mine? Should I only allow, minting after certain blocks, like in runes, or should I only allow minting if you do some kind of a mini proof of work, like in Atomicos? Because I don't want to talk to Casey or Doma. I mean, they are great people, of course, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to convince them, hey, maybe add this feature A, B, C, so I can have my own minting rule. You don't have to talk to the team. You just go ahead and build your own minter, whether it's proof of work, or you can even do ICO. Hey, you can only mint my token if you pay me this much fractal, right? So I would just strongly encourage anybody who wants to dive into this to build your own minter contract, smart contract in sCrypt. So you can define arbitrary rules you can have. And I think if you build any kind of a new type of a minter, for example, proof of work or ICO, or only whoever has CAD tokens and has 10 CAD tokens can mint this rule. I think if you can go and customize your minting rules, I think that would be very interesting. And by the way, I think you can make some money out of it, because if it's first of its kind, for example, proof of work, or let's say time locked, I think people will love this kind of a token, especially it's the first of its kind. It's literally a gold rush there. The gold is there, and if you know sCrypt, you can build your own minter and deploy your own token. I think people are going to love it. I myself, I will mint these tokens because It's very unique, and if it's the first of the kind, I would like to collect those. Yeah.
People heard the keyword making money and gold rush. That means the blockchain is gonna stall, guys. It's confirmed. It's not programmed.
Hey, so you mentioned Cat 721. That's like the NFT standard. Do you know when that is supposed to come out?
Oh, I only heard about some whispers, rumors. I have no idea. It depends on the
Okay,
team.
okay.
Yeah. So it says coming soon. So probably within 18 months, if not 18 days. Yeah.
If there's an incentive, then you know it's on its way as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's always incentives. Yes.
It is. One final question here. Is there any other features that we didn't cover in terms of the functionality of OPCat and sCrypt?
I think it's already covered comprehensive. But if that's one, there's a few things I want to add. So first thing I just mentioned, right? That the minter, you define your own indexes pretty much and permissionless. You don't have to talk to the team behind the CAT protocol. You don't have to talk to Lorenzo. You don't have to talk to Harry. It's all really, there's no limitation. You just go to define your own minting rule and you are ready to go. I think that's very unique perspective for minor validated tokens. I don't think you can do this with any other, let's say, indexer base, because you always, as soon as you have an indexer, there's somebody who's maintained, and you always have to go through that gatekeeper to implement the kind of feature you want to use, right? So that's a big plus I want to emphasize. The second one is because it's minor validated. So just I want to pause for a moment. So think about how many people here has tried to mint CAD tokens. Anybody here?
Yeah, I minted some.
Okay, good for you. Okay, so I'm not talking about the monetary aspect. So think about pause for 1 minute, 1 moment. So when the cat is about to mint it out, I remember very clearly. I think it's about 3 days after it launches on September 11th. Oh, September 11th. Anyway, just coincidence. Anyway, so when it's about to mint out, I really have this nervous. At one moment, I'm very nervous because what if after the progress bar hits 100? What if it keeps going? What if it keeps going? What if, right? You always imagine, because there's no validator, there's no indexer to enforce. Hey, after mint out, that's even you are sending transaction as accepted by miners, it's going to reject by the indexer. So there's no risk there because the rules is defined by almost like third party. But what if you only have miners? And remember, all these transactions that spread out everywhere, right? I think it's like more than 4 million transactions. So the miners, without knowing all the global state, right? Because all these 4 million transactions, they're spread out everywhere. And remember, in Bitcoin, there's no global state like in Ethereum. But somehow the miners, it's almost by knowing only local transactions. Somehow they know, hey, what's the global status right now for this mint token? If has it already reached 100% or not? So for some reason, I think after it hits 100%, all the miners they just say, hey, that's it, end of it. We're not going to let you mint any more CAT tokens. I just want to pause a moment. I think this is really beautiful to me. It's actually the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in Bitcoin history. I mean, when I say Bitcoin, it includes all this adjacent Bitcoin-like chains. So without knowing the global status, all this 4 million other transactions, each miner individually just looking at one local transaction is going to say, hey, whether this transaction is still within the 100% or is already minted out. So I'm going to reject it. So that's really elegant to me. I don't know if you guys follow what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's almost like the miners somehow have a global state without a global state. So very beautiful. Yeah, to me to
Yeah,
watch
yeah. I
this
mean,
happening in real life. Yeah.
yeah, in this situation, right? Your security, or you feel comfortable because it's backed by the miners and not a central indexer that could go haywire. Here, it's reinforced by the Bitcoin network itself, which is really, really self reinforcing. So I think we'll wrap it up here. sCrypt, I really appreciate you for coming on and holding this conversation. I know a lot of people have been discussing, all the interesting opportunities surrounding OPCat and sCrypt. So, and it's been a really some of the primary attention over the last 2 weeks. So appreciate you for coming in and explaining this. I have a few notes, and then I'll get some final words here. If you guys don't know, Adam, myself, and Chris, who work at Emblem Vault, leading cross-chain NFT protocol. We host a show Tuesday through Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Tomorrow, we're hosting Oviato, who used to be known as NFTFi. It's a creator suite for ordinals. And then Thursday, we have our town hall. Please, if you guys enjoyed this conversation, follow the Emblem account so that you can stay in tune with all these awesome conversations, as well as all the cool stuff that we're doing here. And please give sCrypt a follow if you are interested in OPCat and the stuff that he is building over there. sCrypt, any final words, any thoughts before we do wrap this up?
Yeah, people always talk about this idea of a 10x or 100x so-called software engineers. I think there is really an opportunity here. If you have an advantage of playing with OPCat, and of course sCrypt is I think it's the best tool out there for you to leverage OPCat without knowing the all the complicated and assembly like Bitcoin opcodes or script. So it's really, you dive into this. I think I'm expecting a huge Cambrian explosion of the OPCat use cases, either on Fractal or Bells or Litecoin, or hopefully eventually on BTC. If you can get ahead of the crowd, by mastering sCrypt like Harry or some other people already did, you really have a huge opportunity to really make a big impact, or even make a lot of money. I think it's to be very honest, it's literally the best investment of your time and energy. If you know any kind of a coding, definitely check it out. I think you're going to explore. You're really the pioneers and trailblazers for leading OPCat. So you can build all kind of applications that's impossible before or very cumbersome before. You are going to, literally the sky is the limit. If you know sCrypt and you can leverage OPCat. Basically, OPCat enables Bitcoin to have Turing complete smart contract. It's just this one missing puzzle. That's the only thing we need. We don't need 10 other opcodes. We just only need this one. So definitely exploit, learn sCrypt, and of course go to. We have a Telegram called the OPCat, Cat Builders. So if you go to our profile, you can see there's a link. Definitely, if you're a builder or entrepreneur, definitely check it out and join us. With, I think today maybe have 2,200 builders there already. So definitely, come build with us. I really look forward to the next. You guys always talk about the Bitcoin season 2. I think this is the season 3 with OPCat. So I really look forward to what kind of things you guys can build or we can build together. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Randy, any final words?
Yeah. Look, if you guys are interested, we've built a fully open source Cat20 minter, and the deployer is open source. We're building the docs out for that now, and a few more docs are coming out for more things that you can do using Cat20. So if you go to flur.gg, flur.gg, that's where you can go and learn more, and you can fork our project, and you can mint Cat20 tokens and all kinds of stuff. So go check that out. And yeah, we're still building, and we're definitely interested in Cat20 and building on OPCat and across chains.
Props to you guys for making that open source and following in the ethos of the industry. Really helps everybody. You guys heard it here first, right? One op code to rule them all, to save Bitcoin. We'll be back here tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, guys, have a good and safe Tuesday. We'll see you here tomorrow.